Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Gorley, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in today for another episode of the Injury Prevention Academy, a podcast brought to you by DORN Companies, the country's leading wellness-based pain management and injury prevention company. DORN is committed to reducing costs of healthcare and workers' compensation, as well as reducing lost productivity, which has resulted in over $120 million in savings over the last 20 years for our clients. Joining us today is Nick Laughlin. After graduating with his degree in safety management from the University of Central Missouri, Nick has spent over a decade working with construction companies and crews in heavy civil construction, semiconductor, commercial, and multifamily construction. He's currently the safety director for Tofel Dent Construction and is also the construction section chair for Arizona's ASSE with certifications as a GSP and as a holistic lifestyle coach. Welcome, Nick.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. And obviously within this whole career in safety, construction, I think sometimes gets left behind because a lot of industries kind of think of construction as, some of the perils of the job. So it's exciting to just see safety becoming such an integral part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll talk about it more in the podcast, but it's great to kind of see health and safety getting highlighted more and how it's such a strong aspect in the industry. How we just keep ourselves going.
Absolutely. And your career has been spent ensuring that workers in the construction industry are safe. So what led you to pursuing a career in safety, and how has that changed in terms of the industry over the last 10 years and even over the last 2 years?
Okay. So my parents actually are both in public sector. So my dad was a firefighter paramedic. My mom was a police officer for 20 years. So I was always, I guess I got brought up or was immersed with, they're always helping someone. I mean, there are some differences with firefighters and police officers. Obviously firefighters are rescuing you and running into a burning building, and police, investigations and potentially getting shot at. But so there are some differences there for sure. But, I think at the end of the day, they're both helping people. And so, I didn't necessarily know like a lot of kids going into school what they wanted to do. But my senior year high school, my dad had some influence just being a firefighter, so I decided to take my firefighter 1 and 2 at a vocational institute my senior year, even before going to college. And so that got me, just great exposure into the firefighter realm. And then I knew I still wanted to go to school, and there was a program at University of Central Missouri for hazard relief, like crisis disaster planning and fire sciences. So I knew I was going to go to school and go into fire sciences. And really, after taking some of my initial course curriculum, I talked with my instructors, and they said, look, you need to really look into the safety management degree. A lot of it's all correlated. And, I think it would set you up for success in the future. So I guess that's how I got started.
That's great. That's great. And it's interesting hearing how people get into that world of safety, whether it is being brought up in it, an event that really shapes their view of how important safety is. That's exciting to hear that you have such that background of having it almost in the back of your mind at all times.
Right. Yeah. No, it was really interesting, and I never would have thought like safety management. What does that even mean? And it was just really cool that it tied really both their professions. But then I got to necessarily pick, because I liked what they did, but I necessarily didn't want to do what they did, and wanted to kind of pave my own path. So it was neat getting into this curriculum. Then you could take it to more of an insurance side or I chose the construction side. You know, it was always changing. That was the most exciting for me. I get to see different structures getting built. You know, there's some travel potentially, so it was always changing. That's what got me interested on the construction side. So that's the route I more or less I took with construction safety and health.
Absolutely. And how is the safety within the construction industry really changed over these last couple of years?
Well, I guess at least for me, the 10 years and these 2 years. So, you know, I bounced around through a number of different companies, just with different exposure. And it really has brought a nice highlight to my career because I got to see such a diverse background in commercial and heavy civil and semiconductors. But you know, really at the end of the day, safety. It doesn't matter what we're building. It's just looking out for the health and well-being of those workers. I mean, the tasks will change, but there's all inherent tasks associated with their scope and how do you mitigate those hazards. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen within our organization and then even the previous ones is really safety by design. So you know, when you're going into the project, you're really doing a hazard assessment before the project starts, and what are your maybe potential gotcha points. And so how do you kind of bake safety into the design process? How can you engineer out some of these high potential risk activities that we can engineer out some of the hazards, so we're not just putting them in personal protective equipment and hoping for the best.
Absolutely. And especially with, you know, like you said, the way that the construction industry is always changing, you're going to be able to find ways to almost streamline how to keep your employees safe, depending on obviously the overall arc of the industry, but also the particular kinds of construction, whether it is on the side of the road with road work or it's one of those, you know, very large building facilities.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, it just depends on what we're doing. You know, if you mentioned on the side of the road, I mean, obviously you're dealing with traffic, and just people and driving is wild in itself, flying past you at, you know, 60 to 80 miles per hour while you're trying to get work done. But you know, I also got questions too. It's, well, Nick, why do they need to wear hard hats? There's nothing above them. What's going to fall on their head? You know, why do they need hard hats and glasses? And it's people don't think about like the flying debris that comes off cars, or when you're going past at that speed, it's kicking up dust and dirt and debris that's getting washed in the road or blown in the road, and all that becomes airborne. You know, so it could potentially strike you in the head or your eye, or you know, you're inhaling those products. So you know, whether it's road work or a building, you know, again, I think the biggest thing that we're doing a better job of is you know, kind of a construction hazard assessment before we even get started. You know, what are our potential, you know, high factors here of probability of someone getting significantly hurt.
Right, because OSHA has reported that 1 in 10 construction site workers are injured every year, with, you know, those average injury rates up to sometimes 71% higher than other industries. So is that flying debris, is that, you know, is that obviously a part of why the construction industry is so dangerous, and how do the companies keep their workers safe, just regardless of where they happen to be?
Well, and I think people need to understand, like, it is construction. It is an inherently dangerous profession. So, you know, walking into on a job site, I mean, you know, I think it goes without saying, a lot of construction workers, you know, I mean, you get used to it, you get comfortable in that atmosphere because you know, a lot of people have done it for so long, but, you know, there's stuff that can fall on you. There's hand and power tools that you're using that can malfunction. You know, there's just so many different factors, equipment moving, sometimes trades are getting stacked on top of each other, and people are doing different scopes of work, and you have ladders, and you're up and down off the ladder, and loud noises. I mean, there's so many different factors on a construction site. But I think the biggest thing is communicate. I mean, it sounds easy, but it's finding that balance, because I think it becomes a little annoying sometimes if you're over communicating. But at the end of the day, like, wouldn't you rather be more aware than left in the dark of something happening? So, some ways that we're doing it at my current organization is we have these weekly meetings. In the industry, they're called Toolbox Talks. So instead of having a private Toolbox Talk where the subcontractors host their own, and maybe we would host their own, and vice versa, so you'd have 10 different companies hosting their own meeting. Well, why don't we bring everybody together, and as the general contractor, we'll host the meeting, so it fits the bill for everyone's getting continuous education. Maybe we discuss like fire prevention and protection that day. But then after that safety talk, then you can open it up site-wide to say, these are the things that are changing this week. We're having deliveries brought in at this day. Your staging locations that going to be in a different spot. Maybe a company says, hey, we're bringing in trusses. They're getting delivered. Well, how are you going to safely bring in those trusses? Do you have a flagger in place? How are you be stopping traffic? Where are they parking? How are we getting the load off the truck? So it's a safety topic, but then it goes into more. It's logistics and coordination. And then you open it up, what comments, concerns do you have on the project? So then it's really just an open forum where, yes, it could be a simple toolbox talk, but now it's morphed into a much greater conversation. And I think we've had a lot of success, and you're giving those personnel in the field a platform versus just them communicating directly to their foreman going to the general contractor. Now they feel like they have a voice, and they'll be heard, because I think a lot of times their information doesn't get disseminated.
Yeah, and I know that communicating those risks kind of inherent in the industry, whether it is from those outside forces, but also, communicating sometimes the danger of things like fatigue. That's a massive part of keeping just an individual safe and also a team safe. I know that DORN has a program that we call Alert Meter, and it's used to identify fatigue in those high risk occupations so that you can have that communication within the workers, within the supervisors, and making sure that those risks are actually known. Is utilizing safety technology something that you've seen increase over the last couple of years?
Absolutely. I mean, just technology, right, in general is just exploding. I think it's with so much technology, it's hard to find what fits the bill for your company sometimes. But there is one program that we've had some great success at, and it's a safety management tool. So it's an app, or you could use it on a tablet or phone, and it's data analytics. So I learned a long time ago, if it's not measured, it's not managed, right? So with this data analytics, we can now capture in real time what the activities are going on the project, and what inspections we're conducting, what hazards we're finding, what positive observations are occurring, what meetings we're having. So then you can take those analytics over a time period, whether it's each month, each quarter, the life cycle of the project, and you can now generate metrics off that. So, for example, I'll generate a monthly report that gives me everything that we found for that month, and I'll do a trend analysis. So then it kind of gives me my talking points of, well, these are the things that we continue to find and we need to fix. So how do we get better for next month? So I'm seeing we're having some fall protection issues, and we're having some electrical issues and some improper tool usage. So I'll take those items, build a topic around it, and then we're really having another conversation on site. This is things that we keep finding that keep occurring, and we start almost setting little policies on site to mitigate these issues and correct them.
Yeah, and having that open communication uh, between everyone as to actually working to fix the issues being seen, not just to communicate that the risks are there, but to say this is how we're going to keep your workers safe. Because I think that's what really makes that buy-in on the safety culture that a company is creating so integral to your employee safety.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an elusive term. Everyone likes to use it as your safety culture, but I think, you know, being the general and everyone else on the project is subcontractors, you don't want there to be strife there. I mean, it's kind of like you want to be a good big brother. And I think if you show good faith and say, look, I'm not out here, to beat you up and tell you you're doing it wrong. Let's give you the good, the bad, the ugly, and let's just find a commonality here, meet in the middle of look, I don't want to get in trouble, you don't want to get in trouble, and really, first and foremost, we don't want anyone to get hurt. We want everyone to came how they showed up today and go back to their loved ones. So, approaching that way, and then they can see that, hey, you're really do in fact have a safety culture. You're not just talking. You're actually
Right.
walking the talk, I guess. And so then they're seeing the meetings that we're having, the weekly meetings and then the monthly meetings, and even rewarding them, coming on site, providing meals when we reach a milestone, or getting shirts made. I mean, it's the little things that they can see. This is how the organization does business, and we really in fact care about your health and wellness.
Absolutely. And having, it's not just, like you said, it's not just an umbrella term of, creating a safety culture. There are those little things that you can do that make your employees feel like they truly are being taken care of. Whether it is those outward safety meetings, whether it is utilizing different technologies, even utilizing apps on phones, like you said. DORN has a on-demand portal that employees can use to access things like self-care, like mental health awareness that I know has become so important. The wellness techniques, those holistic ideas to really make your employees safe.
Yes, absolutely. So, I made a note here. Really, with what we're doing, very very similar to DORN, is we have an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. So that really pays huge dividends on one of my tenets is mindset. So we have a practicing clinician or someone that they can just go talk to and speak with if they show, if they please to. So, that's one program that we've implemented through insurance. At least that let people know that it's there. At least, I would say probably 90% of our workforce is men. So it's very hard to get men to talk about their feelings or how they're doing or admit that they're maybe having some trouble. So it's tough. I mean, to be successful in your program, it's I've found the most bang for your buck is having the nutrition, the movement, the mindset, and the recovery aspect of it. Because that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. So we would break we're breaking those each down, and what's it mean to have proper nutrition, and it is to move, and what does mindset mean? So I think the EAP goes into mindset, and you can you can certainly talk with someone about it, and sometimes that's all you need. But it's not like, how do you? I think it's very elusive, and I'm still continuing to learn. But there's a number of techniques that you could do on personal time with mindset, breath work, how to charge yourself, or even relax yourself, and how to go to sleep. So there's a few different offshoots of mindset, but yeah, one thing that we've had some success at is the EAP.
That's great. That's great. And you talked about, especially in the construction industry, you get the people who have been there for a very, very long time. They have those set ideas as to how they're going to be able to do their job. But like you said, sometimes, especially over the last couple of years, when the safety and the mental health aspect have really come to the forefront, I'm sure there are those, it could be even just a difference in communication between the different kinds of workers that you have on that job site.
Right. Yeah. And I want to add, even from the last question, I mean, most of the programs I'm finding that are failing are because they're only focusing on one aspect of health, and most of the time that's just movement. So you have to pay mind to, like, our construction workers are utilizing their bodies as a tool. So you literally are what you eat. So you got to have good nutrition if you want good output. So and it's not just with construction workers. I think we need to realize that every person is unique. The way the person responds to whether it's food or exercise, stress varies from person to person, and it's unique, just like our fingerprints. So what's working for me might not work for you. So it's really just having this approach, whether I'm talking to, I mentioned it, like a burly blue-collar worker, construction guy, or if it's one of our office managers. It's really finding kind of finding that special way, maybe to talk to him or communicate him, or figure out, like, what is their why. What is their why they want to be well. And that's going to differ. That's all across the board.
Absolutely.
I might go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that the stressors that affect, especially even though they're all on the same site, they're all going towards the same project and the end result, they're going to have those different stressors, and they're going to have those different needs that need to be met. Whether it's the nutrition side, whether it is the stressors on the body, whether for office workers, it's typically the upper body, especially the back and the shoulders and the neck. But then you get
Right.
into the construction, the actual working aspect, and it's lifting techniques. It's being able to lunge forward correctly and grab something without tweaking that spine. That's such a delicate instrument to begin with. So yeah, that's some of the issues that I know that I've seen.
No, and you just got to be know your audience. Who you're talking with. I mean, with construction, you mentioned your push, pull, bend, reach, and lift. All those you could do multiple times throughout the day. But when you're sitting in this office chair and you're keeping your shoulders crunched, and you roll forward and you're typing all day, I mean, things are going to get tight. So it's just, it's taking the time, and we all need to listen to our bodies more. We've all, in society, it's just, hey, I want a pill, or I want something a quick fix. Like, it's the little whispers that your body is telling you over the years that you need to pay mind to, that it's gonna continue to snowball if you don't address it. So
Yes,
pay
absolutely.
attention to those little inclinings. Or in my training of the holistic lifestyle coach, Czech talks about, like, the pain teacher. So it's, you have pain for a reason. And you
Yeah.
don't want to just ignore it or stuff it by taking a pill. Let's find out what the root cause is.
Yes, and having those conversations And like you said, I really love the idea of those key components in your wellness program of that movement, the recovery, the nutrition, and the mindset, and how it
Mhm.
can really inform your employees and your workers as to how to keep injury free, and having that conversation that it's not just keeping injury free and healthy while on the job site, but your entire life.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's it's not just for the time being. I mean, it's if you manage your diet in your lifestyle, then that's the root of success,
Hmm.
for any program. So, I can't get people to do it. I mean, all I'm trying to do is here's the tools for success that would get the most impact. I can't force you to do it, but if you at least educate them, and then they can see these and get these little wins, then I think it compounds, and I'm more apt to get their attention. And look, it's just the enjoyment of life and continue to go down new paths and explore new avenues. You know, whether it's the different supplements that are coming out, different technologies, you name it. I mean, it's just exploding right now with life is with new things. I mean, I'm constantly hearing about you know new avenues for health and wellness, and it's a bit daunting,
Hmm.
and that's why I want to just focus on those foundation principles, because you can get really lost in the rigmarole.
Yeah, and one of those aspects I know with movement, one
Mhm.
of the conditioning programs, or the main conditioning program that we really work with is Instinctive Movement Systems, which I know
Yeah.
you have experience with, and it's almost breaking out of that traditional view of stretching. It's how you did when you were a kid with stretching beforehand in like a gym class, but once you got out on the field, it wasn't actually what you were doing. So,
Right.
how has that whole instinctive movement conditioning program, how can that actually truly inform your workers on how to move out in the field?
Yeah, it goes back to the pulling, the reaching, the lifting, and it's just what Tony talks about in IMS is just dysfunctional movement. If their back of their spine hurts, well, and then they're bending over more and really pulling on their back, and it might be pulling because their hamstrings are tight. I mean, look, everything's connected and correlated. So it's finding these I guess imbalances, and then it's not just static stretching. You're doing different movements that they're active.
Mm.
So it's I have some of them written down. So there's the squat, the deadlift, the lunge, and the torso rotation. So it's you're improving employees' stability, um, and their mobility, and then that's going to give them more durability. Um, and
Yes,
so, because yeah, a lot of stretches when you do them, they're going to feel good for a little bit, but then it's just going to start being painful again. So everyone has ailments and dysfunctions, and oftentimes you can't get rid of them. It's just years of abuse on the body, and that's normal. But at least with Tony's system, you can still move uh, more functional and more aligned, where you're not having the constant aches and pains.
absolutely. And really, because once you once you have those employees, and I've seen that ripple effect of if you're moving correctly, you're going to feel better just on a long-term basis, especially in those high-risk industries like construction, like manufacturing, like distribution. You can see it actually actively helping. And
Yes.
so much of that informs, I believe, a true wellness program that your employees can really utilize in order to keep themselves injury free. And I know that when you're trying to create an injury prevention program, sometimes wellness gets left out.
Sure. No, I mean, it doesn't get talked about, and it, and I could see the look on people's faces when hey, we're gonna talk about movement, and they're like, well, what's that mean? Oh, that's the first thing people say is this is another stretch and flex program. You're like, no, it's not. So it was just really, it was really great seeing the look on people's faces after you start doing some of these movements, and they're like, oh my gosh, wow, I had been moving wrong for so long.
Right.
We just get these lazy tendencies when getting out of our chair. We're not in that nice stance where we're dumping into our back and putting our legs or our hands on our knees and pushing ourselves up. It's like, no, use those strong legs and get in proper form to lift yourself up and get your chest over your body and stand straight up. So it was just like, again, finding those, with task performance, correcting those little dysfunctions. And it's very subtle, but once you could see it click, they're just like, wow, I do feel better. I am moving better. I don't have the aches and pains in my neck and back, or they're more minimal. So that's been good.
Yeah. And even, if an employee feels better doing their job even once or twice, that's going to inform everything that they do from then on.
Right. Yeah. Well, and two, they're like, wow, you guys are actually taking the time. And I got a lot of nice emails even after that, like, wow, it's great to see that we're implementing things to help us in the everyday, and his system's great because whether you're in the office or in the field, it applies in both scenarios. So
that's great. Yeah. And I think in addition to obviously keeping your body moving correctly, I know in the last couple of years, I've really started seeing, like I said, the focus really come in on mental health and how it can really affect every single part of your life, whether it's at home or at work, and I know that a number of companies around the world really reported seeing a decline in mental health because of those stressors over the last couple of years. Is that something that you saw in this industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, look at this last couple of years with COVID. I mean, who's not mentally stressed out?
Right.
I mean, just with having to be locked down, not know if you can go back to work. But I think it's again going back to listening to your body and figuring out that how do you just combat the stress? Is it affecting your sleep? And then because you're tired, you're going in and you're grabbing something quick and not very nutritious to eat, and you're grabbing a Coke instead of water because it tastes good. And so it's like all these little activities snowball and compound on each other, and that's at least three of those foundation principles for our program. So stress is a huge component to because stress on the body is inflammation, and inflammation is the root of disease. So if you can combat the inflammation on your body, I think it's gonna help in all aspects of your life. But so I got off on a tangent, but
You're fine.
if ask the question again. I think I missed the question.
Well, no, it's I mean, I think you answered it really well in terms of, having every single part of a wellness plan really inform everything else, especially with, with the movement aspect, with the mental health aspect. And then, what have you done to address kind of those mental health challenges, especially when you're working with employees out in the field, when you're working with employees who come from those different generations where they're so used to
Yeah.
doing things in a certain way.
hmm Well, and I think I adjusted a little bit earlier. I think, yeah,
Hmm.
there is a lot of generational gaps, but just understanding people are unique in their own individuality and treating them as so. So again, they're going to respond to food and exercise and stressors different ways. I could, handle stress a certain way, but it might floor another person, you know. And look, I approach it. Look, no one's exempt from stress in life. Like, life's difficult,
Hmm.
and we just need to have tools, um, to assist us when we get in these tough times. Whether your family member's sick, or you lose a loved one, or you got some bad news. Um, Maybe you have to move, or you have to have your mom move in because she's not doing well. I mean, there's you name it, right? There's
Hmm.
issues or things that can happen in life across the board. But I think again, it's paying a little bit more attention to ourselves, and it's like, wow, I slept really bad last night. Well, why was that? And just kind of start going through your checklist. And what can I start doing to combat some of this, so I start sleeping better. And so, am I cranky because I didn't get to do any of my movement and my exercises? Like, everyone's got to find their thing that really, gets them out of bed every day. Or even approach it like, what's your dream? So when I say, like, if you have a big enough dream, um, you want to care for yourself, um, to experience it. So, have your dream direction, and then assess and correct. Maybe have, even, I'm starting to journal, like a awareness log,
Hmm.
where I currently am, and then just fine tuning it, so that kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, and I know we've talked a lot about in this podcast the importance of communication, and that's communication with the people around you, but it's also communication with yourself. What are those stressors that are currently affecting you that day, that week? Is there a certain time period where it's going to be stressful? Your child is moving to college. That's going to be a stressful time, you
Right,
know?
right.
And having that conversation with yourself. And I think that truly informs so much of that kind of inner wellness
Yeah, and
journey.
that's all mindset, right? And how do I prepare myself and prep myself? And that's what I think I'm getting at, mindset. They're like, well, how do I do it? I'm not good at this or that. And it's like, well, you don't have to be. You just have to, I think, be open and honest, like you're saying, to yourself, and what's bothering you, and to get to the root of those problems. I mean, um, it's tough, and I've been trying different techniques. I think, we haven't talked about it much, but breath work has been a lot, to help me in to meditate and kind of clear my mind a little bit. So I'm just thinking on the now, and able to relax.
Hmm.
Or even, I like to go through words of affirmations, things that I'm grateful for in the morning, and things that aren't working for me, like breathe out. So I'm breathing in positive affirmations, love and peace and joy and things I'm grateful for. But, the anxiety and the angst and the jealousy and the things like that, exhaling out.
Right.
Um, so,
That's
but
great.
yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah. And I know that, having those conversations with workers about how they can personally kind of go through
hmm
that as well, keeping safe on the job, and whether it's the employees who have been there for years, who know exactly kind of the day-to-day structure of what's going to happen, but it's also having those conversations with new hires coming onto the site, making sure that they're aware of any of those wellness components, and having them be ready for some of those stressors and some of those, outside kind of high risk areas.
Right. I think it goes back to the conversation we're talking about it this whole time is just communicate, communicate, communicate. So, making sure when on the onboarding process that they're aware of their expectations, their roles, and their responsibilities, and giving them an idea. This is the site that you're coming on. These are the dangers that you're going to face. And just being more prepared before they even step in the field. We're going to go over. Here's a first aid kit. Here's our emergency response locations. Here's who you're reporting to every day. If you find something or issue or concern, that this is who you're going to report to. So it's giving them an open and honest look of what they're going to experience day to day, so they're not confused or blinded by anything. So. So our company has a number of avenues that we're doing. So we do have the new hire orientation, and then we have the superintendent go over logistics, and then we're reinforcing the things that they learned in those trainings through those weekly Toolbox Talks and monthly safety stand downs too. So then everyone who's showing up day to day, they can start understanding what to expect and what they can expect of us and what we expect of them.
Yeah, and I think that is something that will, kind of like what we said, will create that safety culture, like a true safety and wellness culture within an organization is having, whether it's someone coming first on site, or whether it's someone who's always been there, having those conversations and having that foundation of safety.
Yeah, because look, you can still get complacent, and that's when something happens. You get too comfortable. Well, I've done it this way for so many years, and then complacency sets in, and then you slip up, or something changes, and then an event happens. So it's trying to stay focused and go through the progression. And take the necessary steps to do it a certain way and not to cut corners, because you could in fact injure yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, and having that overview of, I kind of like to think of it as keeping your head on a swivel, but because there's always going to be those outside influences, but like you said, just having safety be such an integral part that you're always striving to keep everyone as safe as possible.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, I can't make people be safe. There's rules and regulations out there, and we can still have all these meetings and discussions, and but someone could still make a really horrible choice and an event happen. But I think that's what we understand going into it. But I think too, it sounds daunting when you think about it like that. But I think, look, most people don't want to get hurt or injure themselves and be out of work and not collecting a paycheck and laid up at home. So I think everyone, no one wants to see anyone get hurt or hurt themselves. So.
Yeah, and it's that common goal, and it's that common.
Right. It feels good, right?
That really ties them together.
Feels good when you're looking out for the other person and someone else has your back. It's like, that's how I continue to approach it. Like, hey, I know I'm stopping you and I'm saying you're doing it wrong, but I really just don't want see something happen, or go wrong. So if you can do it this way, moving forward, I think it's going to help. It's going to help your company, our company, and your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for joining me today and
Yeah.
joining DORN's Injury Prevention Academy.
No, thanks for having me. This was a fun and great discussion, and yeah, I just want to continue to bring this information to the forefront for people, and yeah, so thanks for letting me use this podcast as a platform,
Yeah.
and yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. Please tune in next time to learn more about the innovative steps and programs taking place in today's world of safety.